Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My name is John, and I head the GCC for Novo Nordisk here in Bangalore. To give a little context about our company, you may have heard of us. If you've not, we're a 100-year-old company based in Denmark. For most of those 100 years, we've worked in diabetes. For the last couple of decades, we've been doing research in the interplay between diabetes and obesity. So those of you that have heard of us might have heard of us more recently, along with a couple of other companies, for our foray into obesity. I'm originally from the UK. I've worked in 5 countries for Novo Nordisk, and I'm delighted to be here in India for almost 3 years. The GCC we have has about 4,500 colleagues across 17 functions, so pretty much the whole of the pharma value chain, with the exception of wet labs and perhaps manufacturing, sits here in Bangalore. And it's the only center like that we have in the world, so it's one we're very proud of. But what I want to try to give you a few informations on is how Novo Nordisk as a company is integrating AI into the value chain of our work. And so I tried to look at it in 4 ways, as you can see here in the slide. First of all, I'll talk a little bit about how we use machine learning and AI in research and early development. I'll also talk a little bit about data mining, and something that I particularly find very interesting for our patients. And then a little bit more at the sort of commercial end of our value chain, how we're using AI in our medical affairs organization, both here and then supporting our 100 affiliates. And then finally, a little bit about how we can utilize potentially in the future AI with regard to our doctor engagement. You know, for a company that's in more than 100 countries, we have medical representatives and medical liaison specialists visiting doctors, you know, 12 times a day, every single day, capturing insights that are very, very valuable for the way we set ourselves up as a company. But the goal really, and I guess it would be the same for several of my colleagues here on the stage, is the goal is not to do AI for AI's sake. As a patient-led pharmaceutical company, it's about getting new treatments to the patients in the fastest possible way that are safer than they've ever been, and perhaps even more targeted than they've ever been. And that's the goal that we set ourselves when we look at automation, when we look at AI and machine learning for the pharmaceutical industry in Novo Nordisk's perspective. So let me spend 2 or 3 minutes on how we're integrating AI in these 4 verticals. First of all, in our executive vice president area that we call research and early development, so this is preclinical, we're using AI even before the laboratory to be able to find new molecular entities, interesting targets, interesting compounds, in a much, much more efficient way than we've ever been able to do in our history, to be able to get the laboratory work, the preclinical work, and potentially minimize any animal work that needs to be done in our R&D, to be most efficient, faster, and more targeted and more effective. And this is already happening, not so much in India, but it's already happening in Novo Nordisk around the world. Similarly, by using AI and machine learning to be able to crunch the billions of data points that come out of research and early development, we can also make that molecular development much more efficient. When it comes to sort of more tangible, more practical things, we've also got we've imposed a whole group of bots in our R&D organization, and that's helping the teams communicate. It's helping the teams assimilate this data. It's helping the teams even develop patent applications for some of the future molecular entities that we're developing. So quite some work in research and early development. If I then look at, if we're going clockwise around this slide, if I then look at what else we can do, well, as a research-led pharmaceutical company, and I'm sure there are others here, we've got 100 years or maybe 60 years of historical clinical trial data that was always set up just for one clinical trial to prove one thing, equivalence or superiority to its comparator. But within that clinical trial data, there's millions of interesting data points that get closed when the trial closes. And so you can imagine for a company like us, we've got all of that data back 30, 40, 50, 60 years, but it's all in very complicated formats. It's all in old-fashioned formats, old-fashioned databases, some flat PDF files, and it's been dead for decades. But now we can utilize machine learning, we can utilize automation, we can utilize AI to open up that data, those databases again, and consolidate that data to then learn, well, have we got new therapeutic targets? Are there new modalities? Are there areas that we've just not thought about before because we've not been able to push these hypotheses into the automation? So I think very interesting area of mining old data to give new insights. Then if I look at the bottom right, well, what we've done here, and a lot of this is being done in Bangalore, is making our regulatory processes and our medical affairs processes much more efficient. So we took a couple of years ago a collaboration with a startup here in Bangalore, which was looking at 26 quality checks of the regulatory documents that are about to be submitted to the regulatory authorities around the world. They're authored here, and then they're quality checked here. One document used to take us 70 hours to quality check it and format it for the right regulatory authority. Now we have a tool doing that, which is doing it in about 40 minutes. So it's made the whole clinical reporting function much, much more efficient and more impactful globally for Novo Nordisk. We're now utilizing that tool to see if we can scale it in other areas of our business. We think we can lift it into contract review, for example, nothing to do with medical affairs or regulatory, but actually legal contract reviews. So interesting thing. The other thing that we're doing here in Bangalore, rather new, is we produce, probably like every other pharma company, we live off PowerPoint, right? So we produce hundreds, maybe thousands of slides every year, which are delivered to our affiliates for the doctors in our countries to then present to doctors in events like this. And the creation of those slides, the formatting of those slides, the quality checking of those slides, and the justification against corporate visual identity guidelines takes forever. It's really heavy-duty manual work. We have creatives in our office, and then we have formatters and etc. We're just implementing an AI tool now, which we've shown in a pilot reduces the time to do that by 50% and improves the quality by incredible order of magnitude, which will allow us to do more with higher quality and much greater impact across 100 countries built in Bangalore. So significant areas in the kind of coming to market in medical and regulatory. And then finally, an area that we are starting to look at now. I touched on it in the introduction. If you can imagine, you know, in India, we have around 1,000 sales reps. And those sales reps are visiting maybe 10 doctors each today. And at the end of each of those doctor interviews, they're making a small note into their ETMS system that says, you know, I spoke to Dr. John about XYZ and he was interested in ABC. Now multiply that across 100 countries and an organization like ours, the insights that that data could generate are just enormous. But today, it's all flat data and it's all words and it's all in the wrong format. And now we're looking here in Bangalore at, can we bring all of that data together from across the globe and then generate commercial insights, medical insights, patient safety insights, and potential future research insights from the verbatim responses that medical doctors are giving our associates and our employees all over the world every day. So hopefully that gives you perhaps 7 or 8 minutes of an insight into how we are looking at automation, AI, and machine learning right the way across our value chain. I think it's fair to say Novo Nordisk are not a front runner in this. We're a fast follower, but we're very, very excited at looking at how we can collaborate further to really benefit our patients with better drugs, faster, more impactful medicines, and therefore changing lives across the globe. Thank you very much.